Over the last month, Bitcoin has done really well. We can even go back a little bit further. This entire year, when the year started, the price of Bitcoin was still less than $1,000. I was expecting it to double, go to about 2,000 by August, which is around this time. And it's done much better. It's actually gone up 4 times, and we're now sitting at about 4,000 with a high of 4,400. So while people have really high expectations, if you think about it from a little further back, we've done extremely well when it comes to the price. I think we will be above $5,000. It's very likely that we'll be above $5,000 at some point this year. And it may not be the de facto floor yet, but next year it definitely should be. I think it's still a little early to have a game plan on how the community should deal with SegWit 2x. And I also see that as an attack on consensus mechanism. We'll see how it ends. The Bcash hard fork is still doing better than I expected. I didn't think people would buy into it. I have several problems with that current hard fork in that the mining is very centralized and completely unknown. The development of the source code for Bcash is totally unknown. We have over 100 decentralized developers programming in Bitcoin Core, many of whom are very known and very respected. That is not the case with Bcash. While the upcoming SegWit 2x hard fork has some known developers, these developers have been generally discredited as not being the most competent people to program on the code. So I will try not to pay too much attention. I will see it as another attack on Bitcoin by people who are trying to just centralize it and get rich off of what Bitcoin has done up to this point. How should the community deal with it? It's really up to the individual. I will be telling my followers and people that try to listen to my opinion how I plan to deal with it. And it'll be exactly the way I dealt with the previous hard fork, which is sell all of those coins as soon as possible, make a few extra Bitcoin because I believe in Bitcoin and I think that is the future of currency in the world, a decentralized currency free from government interference. And all these attempts by a small group of people to kick out a larger group of smarter people making that code is not what Bitcoin is about. So I will try to defend what I believe in, which is decentralization and the censorship resistance property of the true Bitcoin that's been with us for almost 9 years now. I have a very low opinion of Bitcoin Cash, and I don't even like calling it Bitcoin Cash because I don't want to confuse the average consumer that this is a viable version of Bitcoin. I always refer to it as Bcash. To me, Bcash was an attack on Bitcoin's consensus. 80+% of users in every single poll by every single metric wanted a segregated witness advancement of the code. It's a huge technological improvement that would bring about second layer solutions that would actually let Bitcoin scale. Bitcoin Cash is an attempt to kick out the smart people in the room that are developing this Bitcoin code in order to really bring it to the world. And it's very confusing. And there are some countries that are being dominated by what I consider almost propaganda and convincing people that they are buying the real Bitcoin at a significantly lower price, but they're not. They're just buying Bcash. I don't see Bcash as being sustainable in the long term because the mining is not only centralized, it is totally unknown. 90+% of all mining that takes place, the validation of blocks, is labeled as unknown miners. But that's not the case with the real Bitcoin. We have a general idea of who the miners are. The motivations behind Bcash are also very strange, and it's hard to make sense of them. The promoters of Bcash are saying that this is Satoshi's vision, and not that that really matters because Satoshi left a long time ago and left the protocol in the hands of the smartest people in the room, and they see things a little bit differently. Or to them, this is the safest way of doing something. And treating Satoshi like a god who knew everything 8-9 years ago is completely incorrect. Smarter engineers come in and they explain why things need to be done a certain way in order for your technology to survive and thrive. And the people we have doing that now are very privacy conscious, very decentralized, technology conscious, and these are the right people for the job. So what can their motivations be? Well, a lot of the people on the ground that are pushing for it, that are not developers, are saying, well, this will make transactions faster and this will make transactions cheaper. But the miners that are supporting it are on record for saying that, well, we support it because otherwise, if we don't, the transactions are going to be too cheap with the segregated witness and second layer solutions. And this creates a major contradiction. How could people that are supporting these miners are saying that this will be cheaper, but the miners are saying, no, we want this because the other solution is too cheap? It's a very, very confusing, even for people within the space. And it's a form of doublespeak when if you think back to George Orwell's book of 1984. And I really don't like it. I made my name and reputation in the space by being honest and trying to tell people exactly what is on my mind and trying to think about things critically, and this just doesn't make any sense. With segregated witness, with the solution that the users wanted, they do want to bring second layer solutions like Lightning, which would allow for almost infinite scaling, and the Bitcoin on-chain protocol would be a bit more like a settlement layer, but there should be plenty of transactions there to continue provide money for the miners as transaction fee once the reward starts to go down significantly, down to 6 Bitcoin and then 3 and then 1.5 and then eventually less than 1. And we'll see how it all works out. I still think Bitcoin is doing extremely well. There is huge demand. And in reality, Bitcoin can't be easy. Bitcoin needs to be the hardest investment a person will make. Because if Bitcoin was such an easy investment that no one had to think about, everybody would be using it right now. And since the day that I bought my Bitcoin, I know it was the toughest decision for me. How much money do I want to spend? How much of my paycheck do I want to convert to Bitcoin? And that was 2013. And then in 2014, the price goes down the entire time. And in 2015, it starts to go up, but you don't believe it. In 2016, there's all these scaling debates. In 2017, there's the hard forks. Like it's always such a hard decision. And it's never easy, and there's always people trying to take control of it because, you know, having this currency that continues to go up in value is never enough. You need to have power to come with it as well. So I don't like Bcash. I wish it never came into existence, but now that it's with us, I'm not scared of hard forks anymore. It showed me that people that don't think about it critically, people that are easily manipulated, are supporting it. and it will only make us stronger, and it has prepared us so much better for the hard forks that are yet to come. I would strongly encourage people to do a lot of homework before buying Bitcoin. This was always something that needed to be done. Almost everyone I know, between the time they discovered Bitcoin, the time they decided to purchase Bitcoin, and the time they actually purchased Bitcoin, whether that's a week, a month, a year in between, you always buy it, almost always buy it, at the worst possible price. And you tend to buy the top, and then you watch something catastrophic happen, and then you really have to make a decision. Why did I buy this? Am I in it for the long haul? Am I willing to hold through the downs as well as the ups? Very few people buy it at a perfect price and have it go up on them. And a lot of the people that buy it at a perfect price and it goes up on them, they feel like they're the smartest person in the world. They just made all this money, and they don't realize that it was mostly luck. And what happens to these people is they lose a lot of that money. Right now, that decision has just become a lot harder, because if you're not listening to the right people, you might buy the wrong Bitcoin. This is something that we've said in the past, that people that aren't educated, that didn't take any opportunity to look at the internet, we've had instances where some old coin was sold to these people pretending to be Bitcoin. This has just become a lot harder, because people will tell you, yeah, Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin, but it's not. Bitcoin Cash isn't Bitcoin. And that's why I don't like calling it that, and I call it Bcash. Especially when English isn't your first language. And right now we're seeing Bcash being dominant in Korea and Japan. And it's not surprising to me, because a lot of the people that support Bcash are in those areas. And they would be pushing it through the media, especially to foreign investors. With something like Japan, where Bitcoin is becoming legalized as a currency, now there's Bcash. I wonder if Bcash falls under the Bitcoin currency regulations. Do any altcoins fall into that zone? Because now a lot more scammers can go into Japan and pretend to be Bitcoin, and not just Bcash, could be completely others, and selling it to people pretending to be Bitcoin. But right now that is becoming harder. If the price gets closer, right now as the interview is happening, the price of Bitcoin is around $4,100 US, and the price of Bcash is around $700 US. They're close enough for people to really be confused. If the price difference was bigger, if one was about 200, 100, and the other one is closer to 5,000, the real one, then people should be a little bit smarter, and they'll know what they're buying. Usually when you're buying something very, very cheap, you start to be very, very skeptical. Even if someone is telling you, well, Bitcoin went from $5 all the way to $5,000 in 4 to 5 years, Bcash can do the same. But selling it is a little bit harder at that point. It's easier to convince people that this is Bitcoin the closer the prices are to each other. But it's still early. Bcash has only been with us for about a month, even less. And we'll see. People are still calling me and asking me, well, how do I get my Bcash out of my Bitcoin so I can sell it? While other people are mad that I sold all of mine, and I advise people, look, this is not Bitcoin. This is an attack on Bitcoin. It's a hard fork. You don't want it. If you're able to make Bitcoin out of it, just take it now. I did. I made 10% on my Bitcoin. People that did it a little earlier than me were able to make 12 to 13. But people that just did it about a few days ago, which is over 2 weeks after the hard fork, some of them were able to make 20%. And some people are now getting very upset that, oh, you told us to sell, but now it's 20% of the price of Bitcoin. Well, sure. I mean, if you're not happy with making 10%, if a professional trader makes 10% in a year consistently for 10 to 15 years, he's one of the best traders in the world. Yet the people in the crypto space are upset that they just made 10% in a day for doing nothing. And it just shows you the immaturity and the non-professionalism of the people in this market. They just haven't been there before. They showed up here and they think they know trading, they think they know markets, but they really don't. There is lots of experiences that they're missing, and they'll learn in time, because if that's their expectation, then they'll probably end up losing most of their money when it's all said and done in one way or another. Nobody knows. No one really knows what the right price of Bitcoin should be. It's just like no one knows what the right fee for a transaction should be. The market needs to decide that. Same thing with the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin really adjusts to the market. The imbalance happens, of course, when people get very fearful, whether that fear is legitimized because of technological issues on the horizon, or that fear is people spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, trying to crash the price so that people spreading the fear can buy it much cheaper. This is one of the reasons that I decided a while ago that if I'm going to give trading advice, which isn't really trading advice, but even if I'm going to give my opinion on the price of Bitcoin as a trader, I don't actually trade Bitcoin. It makes me a lot more neutral, it makes me a better analyst, and even if I think Bitcoin is going to go down, I don't sell my Bitcoin, I don't try to profit from the fall in Bitcoin, and I feel that it makes me a lot more honest in trying to analyze the price. I just try to hold on to the Bitcoin and protect it from even myself, because I've been known to make not such wise investments with my Bitcoin and some of the companies, where the best investment is just to hold on to the Bitcoin itself. If it's going to be this censorship-resistant value transfer and money that is independent of government, it's important, and it will create its own reward just by being popular. Euphoria also comes into play, where people start buying it faster than there is supply out there to get it. And what happens with Bitcoin, because supply is limited and the price starts to go up, more people get interested, more articles get written, and more people want to buy. But with such a limited supply, the price starts to go up very, very quick. Eventually, the price reaches high levels, and there's nobody left to buy, and the price just falls. As long as it's technologically sound, this fall will find the floor, and it has always gone back up, and it has gone back further up. There have also been instances where the price has been manipulated to the upside, like in 2013, when Japanese exchange Mt. Gox decided to run Willybot, which was an algorithm to help pump the price of Bitcoin higher because they were hacked a while back and they needed to make up the difference. I'm not really sure what they achieved by doing that. It's hard to say, because they clearly weren't able to buy more Bitcoin or why this was done. But a lot of people don't really understand what they're doing when pumping the price up or down. They just like the power of and having the ability to do so. And even out of Wall Street, everyone always claims manipulation, but the easiest manipulation to make of any market is to the upside. You create this euphoria to drive everybody in, and then you sell it to them at the top and you get out first, and then you just stop buying. So I'm a big believer that prices get manipulated to the upside way more than they get manipulated to the downside in any market, whether it's gold, oil, or anything else, because there's way more money to be made driving the price up than driving the price down. And in the Bitcoin lately, we've seen a bit of an opposite, because all of these attempts to hard fork have really been suppressing the price of Bitcoin. So perhaps they've been doing us a favor, and people that really understand the technology are able to accumulate more Bitcoin while the prices are low, because I do expect the price to go up a lot in the near future.